welcome back to the stage. You were here an hour ago accepting Comedy Person of the Year. I don't know how many people were here to see that whole thing. But what struck me about that is that you were talking about Montreal, you were talking about the festival, and you got kind of choked up, you got emotional in the middle of it.
Well, I was talking about my management. I didn't get emotional about Montreal. It's just
but it's so beautiful here.
No, I do love it here. I've always had good, I mean, I've been coming to festivals here since '92 or something, and I've always been just welcomed and encouraged. And, you know, this can be a really ugly, brutal business, and it doesn't say no very nicely, but I've always, every time I come here, it gets a little better, so you have to be grateful.
Is that why you got choked up?
No, because I was talking about my manager.
You're talking about your manager
here.
Yeah, you met him here.
I owe him a lot, yeah, so I got choked up. It's kind of embarrassing. I wish I didn't.
Well, this is starting off well. Congratulations on the Emmy nomination.
Thank you very much.
Is it odd to be nominated for playing a character so closely based on yourself?
Well, I mean, it's still acting because the things aren't really happening. I'm just left to pretend that some lady said something to me that no woman has ever said, like 8 times in a row.
Right.
So it's still acting. But I'm certainly not the best actor in a comedy. So, I am technically acting, but I don't deserve it. I don't know that anybody who's ever gotten one did deserve it, but I don't.
How much of the character on the show then is you?
Well, it's my face and voice and the way I am.
Beyond the physical.
Well, the things I write for myself to do are usually dumber than I'm willing to be in real life, and sometimes more outspoken and sometimes bigger mistakes.
Right.
That's just more fun that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a pretty bright person. In real life, I do okay. So in the show, I'm more of an idiot, more of a sad idiot. It is, I mean, I do get, I don't, to me, I'm like, I guess some people think I'm sad or depressed in the show, and I am, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a natural state for a human being. I don't think anybody who's like, there's something wrong with somebody like that. So I think a natural and honest reaction to life is just, but I do like doing the show because I do get to do that, and it's natural. Like when you do a sitcom, you have to promote it. That's the hardest part to me, is when you usually want you to like, everybody wants comedians to smile and, you know, look, hey, come on, watch the show. But when I do promotion for the show, there's the promotion people that do the magic of selling the show. They come and they put me in front of a camera, and I just sit there, just tired, like looking at my feet, and they're like, oh, that's great, that's perfect. You're selling the character. I'm like, no, I'm really fucking depressed right now.
Tell me a little bit about the backstory of the show. I mean, was the show kind of created to find a way to visualize your stand-up, or?
No, I didn't originally plan to use the stand-up. Because I like making films. And so I just wanted to make short films and not have them have a whole episode arc to them. I just wanted to have some things that are short, some are long, and just throw them together. And at first I thought maybe I'll narrate it, but I really hate talking to a camera. I hate looking at the camera. Boy, and I knew that was a bad idea. It's so goofy. And every time I started writing narration for myself, I was like, I can't do this. And then I just thought, well, I've got a lot of good jokes, and if I just tell them in front of a crowd and film it, then even if the show stinks, at least I'm a decent stand-up, and that'll get the pilot sold. That's all I thought. I don't think I have enough material for a pilot, so I'll just put some stand-up in it and see if that sort of sneaks it in. But it turned out to be a great way. The stand-up tends to take pressure off of me being funny in the regular part of the show, because I'm being extrovert and funny and outspoken, and then I mostly react in the vignettes, you know. And then I hate calling that. I'm sorry. And then also a lot of work with writing a TV show. There's some things that make TV shows feel the same because they all have the same needs. You have to end on a note that makes people want to stay with the show. They call it the act break, you know. And so you want a good moment, funny moment. And writing to those can really hurt the rest of the scene because real moments in life don't tend to end with a you know. So the whole structure of the scene for a lot of sitcoms ends up being like a way to get to this false blow, they call it. I mean, they call it a blow, I call it a false blow. But I sound like such an asshole right now. But anyway, I can let the scenes die and just sort of be like, what? Oh, okay, well, he told a funny joke at the end. I actually get to stand there and tell a funny joke. It takes pressure off the story from ending on a joke. So, yeah.
And you write, star, produce, edit every single episode. I mean, it's an incredible thing. Tell me a little bit about that kind of production schedule. I mean, how different is it from other shows? Because you're a one-man show. You're doing something.
I do it all by myself, and I mean, I have an amazing crew, and I have a great casting director, and a great producer, director of photography. They're all great people, and but I have a big advantage because most networks you have to present the show to them. Like a lot of the work for sitcoms and TV shows is showing your work to the network. It's a huge amount of labor. You have to actually present the show to them. You have to do a table read so they can hear it out loud, and then they give you their notes, and rewrite it, and do. Sometimes you have to do a table read for the studio, and then you do a table read for the network, and then you do a blocking run through for the studio and the network. That's a lot of work just for an approval process. I don't have any of that. Just write shit, and then we make it, and they don't know what it is until it's finished. So.
Do you give yourself notes?
Yeah, no, I have to go through everything I write. I have to go look at it and go, what really sucks about this? I can't get proud of it because the show will really be bad. So I have to do a lot of self-hate to have the show be properly cut down.
The stand-up elements of the show,
Yeah.
You know, so many stand-ups don't want to give away their material in that way because then they feel they can't use it later on in clubs and that kind of thing. And the GQ article in this issue of GQ that's on stands right now, people say...
It's me on the cover. I clean up nice. Got some nice titties.
It says that you never repeat material, and then it goes on, you very much wanted me to understand that there are guys out there struggling week after week, month after month to get 10 or 15 good minutes, whereas Louis C.K. takes stuff that other comics only dream of and throws it away. Every year, a whole new act, 90 minutes. Not done anything about that. I mean, what kind of pressure is that for you, particularly now that you're the voice is a little louder because you're on television now and people are seeing it?
It's really good pressure. I like pressure. It's enabling, you know, I like pressure. I never knew that you could like pressure. I got the idea of that. Are you okay? I better get that. I saw Billie Jean King being interviewed during the Battle of the Sexes. I don't know how young you people are, but Billie Jean King was a great tennis player. And, I mean, she's still alive, but she's not a great tennis player anymore. I don't think she'd be upset that I would say that. She sucks at tennis. But she was one of the best ever, and she played Bobby Riggs, who was a male tennis player who made fun of women and said I could beat any woman, even though he was older. So they had this press conference where he was just saying women belong in the kitchen, and you know, he was just being horrible. And so they turned to her and they said, well, how does this make you feel? And she said, it puts a lot of pressure on me, and I love pressure. And she smiled, and you can tell she really meant it. She loves pressure, feels good, and it makes her feel strong. So I was a kid when I saw that, and I thought that's what you should think about pressure, that you love it, like you want to eat it. And so I made this an idea in my head that I said to a lot of people out loud. I don't do stand-up jokes after I've been done for a year. If they've been on a special, they're gone. And yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but I like it. Every year I'm an open micer again. I go out and I'm not funny and my jokes are bad. I'm sort of, right now I'm in that place. Last night I did 2 shows and I'm not proud of them. It's hard. It's hard. I feel bad for some of the audiences that pay big fucking bucks to see it.
How so? Why are you proud of them?
I just could be a lot better than that. I mean, I just finished touring and working on the show with material that took a year to polish and make perfect. And then it goes away, and I go to completely brand new, just shitty, half-baked, and my confidence is gone. It's really awful. It's a terrible feeling. But I look forward to it every year. I really do.
I mean, is it a cycle? So around this time every year, you start having to write, and then is there a polishing period that goes in?
Yeah. I mean, I usually go to bad clubs to write in. I go to I don't want to badmouth any clubs, but Nashville, Zanies in Nashville is I mean, it's a fucking bar. It's a bar, and it's in Nashville. And it's not the cool grunge rock people, it's the fucking people from Tennessee. And they come to the shows, and they laugh. They're really good. They're good folks, and they laugh fucking hard, but they're not gonna sit there for some nuanced bullshit. They're gonna come on with the fucking laughs. I got my wings, I want my laughs. So that's where I go to write. I mean, I write mostly in New York doing short sets, and then I go out and do stuff in Nashville and just sweat through really hard weeks. And then by the end of the summer, I've got a bad 90 minutes, and I take it out on a concert tour. And then the pressure of the concerts and the sort of finesse of the spotlight, that's like a polish. And then by the end of the year, I got a special.
Is anything written down, or is it
No,
just?
No, I can't. If I write stuff down, my brain knows I don't need it in here anymore. That's what feels like happens. If I write it down, I completely forget it. So I never write anything down. And I don't believe in writing comedy as writing. I don't know. I believe in it. I don't mean it's religious. Shelf. No, it's good. But I think comedy's a spoken form. So if you write it first, you're actually putting a lot of filters on it. I kind of look at it like, I mean, because literally your brain generates speech completely differently from a different part of the brain than it writes. So if you write stand-up, you're actually writing on paper, you're generating it that way, then you're reading it and using your memory and then interpreting it into speech. And you can tell when a comic does that. And some of them are great that do it that way, but I don't like doing it.
It's like third or fourth generation by the time it comes back.
Yeah, so I tend to start with a basic idea. I go like, here, I want to talk about, I know there's a germ of an idea, then I go on stage and I just say it to it. And facing an audience and needing to make them laugh makes it it activates the part of my brain that knows how to tell it.
What?
Because when you're writing, you're like, I bet they'll laugh at this. And I'm like, fuck it. Then you go, oh no, it was a terrible idea. But when they're looking right at you, you're like, okay, no, I got it. And then they draw it out of you. It's the audience is kind of like the instrument you play in a weird way. And you can't do it you can't really think it through clearly without their help. It would be like being a horn player and just kind of imagining, if I had my trumpet, I would you put the trumpet in and it's like, that was a bad idea.
How do you read the audience? Do you, I mean, I've talked to some comics who, find the one person who isn't laughing in the room and that's the person they blame.
Yeah, that's just insecurity. That's just bad. That's a dumb thing to do. That's really dumb. Because also when a person, and I know this from experience, when there's somebody in the crowd and they're giving you that look of like, they just enjoy being like, you got all these people, but you ain't got me, pal. And when they can tell, even if you dart across their eyes like this, they fucking know. They see every time. He just looked at me for the 15th time, and I ain't laughing. And you give him a lot of power. So, and you dump the show, and just because you're fucking so insecure, you can't, one guy doesn't like you, and he's not even a bad person, you're just not funny to him. Get the fuck over it and do your job. But that's a hard thing, sometimes you start,
How long did it take you to get that sort of attitude about that whole thing? Because
Well,
when you're starting out, I'm
Yeah.
sure that doesn't come naturally.
No, when you're starting out, you can get derailed by just about anything. It's the pool table in the back of the room. You start out in comedy in the worst situations, so it's immediately an awful thing. And, but it's good. It's good training.
Like playing in front of the lunch buffet.
Yeah, I mean, I remember doing college shows where you just you get hired by a college to do a show, and it's like you go to their little sort of cafe, and you just stand there. They don't usually give you a microphone or have any light difference between you. You just all of a sudden you're like, hey everybody, this is a show now. And these kids are doing their homework and they're like, what the fuck? I want to see this. I want to do my homework. I'm talking to my friend. I'm like, nah, hey, yeah, fuck you. And I did one show and the turnstile to go get food with the trays was right behind me. So it was just ching, 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 ching. And that was brutal. That was so hard. I felt so bad. I had so many shows where I'd sit in my car after and just go, God damn it. And I just feel this thing on my chest like, God, that felt so bad. And you breathe through it. But then by the time you get home, you're like, you don't feel it anymore. And then you get information from it. If anything kills during that show, you know, that's good jokes. Those are good jokes. Not always. Sometimes there's stuff you can get bad habits of doing stuff that's just to get attention and have something pop, you know. But it's good skills for a smart comic to go and do shitty shows and learn how to just kill for drugs. I think that's a good offset to people that are like just sort of thinky, soft, and smart.
Well, when you think about the comedy that you did, then like the idea of just not being not over intellectualizing it, I guess, for a mass audience. How do you describe what you do now? How do you describe the comedy you do now? I pulled up some words from various articles online. Words that people use like dark, edgy, uncomfortable, things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't, which I'm not sure that I entirely agree with. But what's your definition of it?
I don't know.
Is it best not to overthink it?
Yeah, I can't really sit and put words on it, I guess. I just, I mean, I know how I sort of do it now, where I generate material from. It's just whatever thought is burning in my head, I say it. And I used to ignore those. I used to have these big festering thoughts. And I go, ugh. Then I really think about something, it would really preoccupy me. And I go, okay, now let's write some jokes. Let's put that all aside and write some jokes about stuff that people like to talk about. And I talk about, you know, the same thing most comedians talk about, commerce and, you know, daily life. A lot of comedians just sort of go through the life everybody else does and just makes themselves an asshole, you know. Just, I went to the store and the guys said, would you like to look at some shoes? And I said, what do you know? I want to look at some fucking dogs, asshole. And you picture the shoe store guy going, I just wanted to help you. Sorry. I used to do that. I used to just take situations and go, and then I fuck you. I don't know. None of it meant anything. So now it's just festering thoughts.
Well, do you think was there a moment, was there a line in the sort of the timeline of your career when you decided to start listening to those festering thoughts a little bit more, that you started to notice that there were more people at the shows, or you were getting more attention because you were doing something that was a little truer to yourself?
Well, I kind of had a tipping point where I used to worry about, is that okay to say on stage? I used to think about that. And there's one bit that really, I said this thing about, I used to get scared to do this joke about September 11th, where I would say, you know how bad a person you are by how soon after September 11th you masturbated. Between the two buildings. But I did that. I was like, oh God, because I lived that. I September 11th. I mean, I didn't jack off. I didn't do. I might have. I don't know. That's true. I might have. But I do remember. We all felt really sick after that, and really messed up. And there was some point where I was like, I'm gonna jack off and have just selfish, horny, depraved thoughts, and ejaculate. What a fucked up thing to do in the sort of climate of, the nation and all the shit that we squandered. But yeah, I remember thinking that, and I was like, can I say that on stage? That's a really fucked up thing to say. And I'd say it, and something like 6 out of 10 audiences would go, oh, Jesus. Damn it. And then that was like the one that was like the borderline joke, because then one day I said, I don't care if they say that, it doesn't matter. it's okay. They have I'm not saying fuck them, I'm saying, yeah, okay, I get you, yeah, I understand being upset at that. A lot of people got hurt and killed, and I jacked off. I'm sorry. I did that. I'm not the only one. I mean, everybody has jacked off since 9/11. There's still some old ass fucking God bless you. But sometimes I do. Like I did a joke about September 11th. I had another one that I did recently because I was remembering that I was married. I was talking about being married, and that in a marriage you're always, even if you're happily married, you always have things you hide from each other and bad feelings. And I had one time when I was married, I got my ex-wife, then wife, called me at a hotel that I was staying at and said she kind of phone sex Bill, and I just felt like shit. It was a bad thing. Anyway, she called me one morning and said, and was crying, and I thought, oh fuck, she found another phone sex. And so I said, what's wrong? I couldn't get it out of her. And then she said, turn on the TV, and it was the Twin Towers burning. And I was like, fucking thank God. That's also a real moment then. And I mean, I guess to me the guiding principle is, I wouldn't tell that story if it was fake. Like, hey, 9/11 was fucked up, let's make fun of it. I lived that moment. I'm sorry, I'm not proud of it, but I lived that. But I told that story at the Comedy Cellar one night, and a guy just bolted up and said, that's too much. That's not okay. I'm not okay with that. And he walked off. And I was pissed off. And I was talking to Mark Maron afterwards, a friend of mine, and I said, fucking, I hate when people get offended, they're being narcissists because they're picking their thing. Like, I probably said 50 wrong things that night, and that's the one he said, no, now that's the one I say is wrong. And I was railing about this guy and saying, anybody who just decides the thing and they ignore everybody else's problems, it's fucking narcissist. And Mark's watching me say this, and he says, do you realize how wrong you are right now? You're calling that guy a narcissist. What is more narcissist than you being relieved you didn't get caught doing phone sex when 9/11 happened? And your reaction to 9/11 was, woo, I'm not in trouble with a wife. What's more fucking narcissist than that? So sometimes like I think, yeah, maybe I'm a bit of a dick on stage. There are times I go, am I okay? But you know, if it's bad, then folks will stop coming at some point. It's a very Darwinist system. I'll stop selling tickets and I'll go back to where I belong.
Is there a line that you won't cross?
No, I mean, I think that there's a positive thing about going to difficult and scary places if you're going to be getting laughs there. I think that's positive. I think those are the places, if anything, you should be well on that side of whatever line. That's more important, I think, according to that one fellow. It's more, you know, getting laughs about happy things. I don't know, it's just sort of gilding the lily. Oh God, that dog was so cute. And then you're laughing, well, yeah. I enjoyed the dog. And then I got to enjoy the laugh. I didn't need the laugh. But if you're dealing with things like death and fear and stuff, then if you laugh in that location of your brain, then it's, you know, that's positive, isn't it? I think, I don't know. It seems like it is to me.
Well, it is for you.
It is for me, right? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So far it's working out. I mean, I do, some people, they get upset. I do sometimes read shit online. Fuck that, they don't like it.
And did you
don't
get
like
a
to talk
letter
about certain things. What?
You get a letter?
I never got a letter from anybody. The letter, oh yeah, the Sarah Palin thing you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, I said some things about Sarah Palin, and I don't, you know, Twitter is a very dangerous thing. Twitter's like, because all you have to do is take this thing out of your pocket and just thumb out some shit, and it's like broadcast across the nation in this massive. And people, I mean, I have 500,000 Twitter followers, which means 500,000 people who I have no idea who the fuck they are. Some of them might have followed me because somebody forwarded my thing to them. They get it, like they're in their lives somewhere. And oh, what is this? Sarah Palin has Chinese people living in her cunt. Why did you read that? Like 8 more worse than that. then there was this other thing where I was on, and I didn't do those things to be political. I just being a dick. I just enjoyed it. I just liked it, and I don't like her. I really don't. But so I didn't mind unfairly shitting on her. And then I was on the radio once on the show Opie and Anthony in New York, which is the point of that show is you just fucking take off your jacket and you just say terrible things. Just terrible. And I've been on that show so many times and I've said awful, awful things. And nobody has given a shit because I didn't have a TV show. But they change, things change, you know. So I was on the show and I was talking about how Sarah Palin had, she had this Down syndrome child and she waved it around at the convention. And it was, to me, it was a fucking gross act. I don't think she's a good mom. I think she parades her kids around, doesn't give a shit what's actually happening to them. Her kid's fucking in danger in a war, and her daughter's whatever the fuck. And then it was just this baby, I got one of these. It's just a gross thing. When I was a kid, I went to a summer camp, and all the kids had Down syndrome and cerebral palsy. It was a camp for special needs kids. And this is a true story that I went there, my parents sent me there without knowing that it was that kind of camp. Yes, and I went there for 2 summers. And I had a number of friends that had Down syndrome that had all kinds of, I didn't know that that's what they were called. These were my friends. And there's a lot of humor around that. If you know any parents that have kids that have Down syndrome, they laugh about it. Everybody does. But mainly it's like, it's this life, and these are really amazing people. Like, the reason Down syndrome people are like sequestered is because everybody else is too horrible. Because regular human beings that are allowed to have their own apartment and walk around are so awful. The average person is so mean that we can't let Down syndrome people walk around. If humanity wasn't so awful, they'd be allowed to just, everyone would help them out. Here, I only need this much of your money, and here's your groceries. But everyone would fuck them over. So it's literally like, if everything was right, everyone would be in jail, and there'd be like the 18 Down syndrome people. So, I'm just saying I've had a lot of thoughts about that kind of person, and when I saw her fucking just holding one up like, right? I'm nice, right? It just made me sick. And she started talking about the joys and the challenges of having a Down syndrome child, and the kid was like, 2 months old or something. So I said on the radio, there's no joys and challenges yet. It's just a fucking baby. It doesn't matter that it has Down syndrome. All babies are fucking dummies. It doesn't matter. And later it'll become a challenge and a joy, but right now you're just fucking exploiting it. Anyway, I got this email from this dude, this long email. He started by saying, I don't like Sarah Palin at all, but what she said was hurtfully wrong. I have a child with Down syndrome, and from the day she was born, it's been very difficult. They have all kinds of physical and medical difficulties, and it ripped his family apart. He had no health care, and they ended up getting divorced, him and his wife, and this changed. She sent me pictures of the kid, and I was just like, oh fuck, I'm a piece of shit. I just felt so terrible, because I was wrong. I said what I said was wrong. And I wrote him back and I said, your kid's very lucky, and I'll remember what you said to me. I didn't apologize to him, because what I was doing was just fucking foul-mouthed comedy. I'm not making speeches and saying anything. I do think it's a nuance, the prism of comedy. I'm doing this to be funny and to explore a lot of bad ideas, to see what it stirs up and makes people think. But that guy got upset, so I wrote back and said, hi, your baby's cute, and you seem like a nice guy. But it's tricky, it's kind of shit's tricky. Well, it's changed since I've gotten more noticed, because more people are reached by what I say.
Yeah, the more famous you get, and the louder your voice gets in that way, it gets trickier, right?
Yeah, it sure does, because people hear you that didn't choose to. Like only about 6 months ago, anybody who heard my comedy really liked me already, or was likely to like me. And now there's folks who just are walking by it and they hear some awful thing, like, what the fuck was that? and so, yeah, it's just changed things. The audience changed, it becomes more broad, and I don't want to get any more famous than this at all. I really don't. This is.
What are you going to do about that?
You know, stop. You know, just. I mean, it's all in my control. You know, work less hard and. No, I mean, I got a pretty good built-in. I mean, all that. It's look, saying that Sarah Palin had Chinese people living in her cunt is a pretty good circuit breaker right there. That's good. I mean, a friend of mine knows a guy who works at the White House, and he wrote her an email saying, "Your friend is going to really cause a lot of problems." For like, there's people that noticed it. So, like, I'll never be the White House correspondent comic. I'll never be that guy. They'll never have me there. I've just said too many fucked up things that they just no. They're not going to invite that kind of trouble. So. Terrific. I'll never be that guy. I mean, I'd like to meet the president and wear a bow tie. It would be fun, but I shouldn't be that guy.
Well, you're probably never getting invited back to Zanies in Nashville after those comments.
Well, they're not. No, they'll be happy to have me. I sell tickets. I sell mad tickets in Nashville. I mean, somebody likes it, and I sell tickets, so it works out. And again, Darwin is system. At some point, that will decline. You don't sell tickets forever. So I know it'll go down from where I am now. It might go up a little and then down, but I just hope I level out at a place where I can feed my kids. That's why, you know, sort of. Stephen Wright, who's become a pal of mine, he goes out and does like 750 to 1,200 seat theaters, depending on the market, and that's nice. And he's maintained that for 20 years now. So I'd love to have that.
You mentioned your kids. There was a clip that they played during the luncheon of you with the little girl that plays her daughter on the show, and it's just a fantastic clip. It was a fantastic clip, and it was her essentially saying, you know, I like it at Mommy's more. And you're trying to brush her teeth, but it's funny, and I don't know what her name is, she's fantastic.
I can't pronounce her name.
She's terrific.
Kid's nuts, yeah. Kid plays my daughter. Yeah, and then she says, I like being at Mommy's more, and she walks away, and I go, good night, honey, and
tell me just a little bit more. I was talking a little bit more about the show because I just thought the chemistry between the two of you was so great in that scene, even though you are flipping her off. But I thought that it felt really real. It felt different than other shows that I've seen.
Well, she's a very natural actor. We didn't want to get kid actors that are cute and rehearsed and trained. Sometimes kid actors. I did a pilot for CBS, and we had twins playing my daughter. And it's a horrible experience because they fucking drill these kids. There's a person on set who is the human rights, whatever the animal rights person is for babies. It's a person who, you know, is there to make sure that the kid is not being abused. But that person is hired by the show, so they get hired by getting a lot out of the kid. So a lot of times I'm like, is this kid tired? She's like, no, he's fine, he's fine. And it's horrible. They promise them things and then take them like, you know, I want my mommy. You can see your mommy after one more take. Come on, one more take, and then you see your mommy. Then we do another take. Where's mommy? You need another one. You're fucking breaking promises to this kid. And then, within the same few minutes, you promised another take. Remember we talked about promises? I mean, it's crazy. And then they feed them with candy and stuff. Here, candy. And the kid's like, I don't even really like it anymore. And they're two identical twins. So you break a kid down until they have a nervous breakdown. Not a child tantrum, a fucking nervous breakdown. And they just cry, and then you take them off, and then the experience is the kid comes back all like, hey, how's everybody doing? Like just fresh, because they bring out her sister. And that kid's been drilling lines, and so she says them like this. I'm like, who fucking talks like this? And you're looking at a 4-year-old going, you fucking suck, you're really fake. And that's what you're thinking in your head. And you're hurting her irreparably for her whole life. It's a terrible experience. So
you went out of your way to avoid that.
Yeah, we said this time we're gonna get a couple of kids, and we're only gonna get kids that seem to really enjoy doing it, and we're not gonna have them around for a long time. And if we're having a bad shoot, they go fucking home, and I'll just write another ending. I mean, that's how we don't push those kids. We just, you know, let them live their lives. And we lost one because she had another life to live, and so we said, all right, we'll replace her. It doesn't matter. If these kids grow up and start doing something else, if I get a sense that they're not liking it, I will fire them for their own good and get other kids. But it doesn't matter if it's different kids on the fucking, It's just a TV show. It's not more than ruining a child's life. If there was a decent puppet, I would use it. The story's good, the puppet's decent.
How fluid is it when you're actually shooting? You say, whatever, you send the kids home and you write a new end to the show. Is that, that seems to me to be the complete opposite of what happens on a sitcom, where you have to have a meeting about changing the word "and" to "but." And
Yeah, no, it's just me. I wrote it all, so it's my call. So I just live with it. And some stuff you can tell isn't. I often cut on the set. We don't improvise, but I cut a lot on the set. I just go, we don't really need that, and you work it out in your head, or you don't. I have finished some things and felt like this isn't really done, but let's shoot something else, and I'll figure it out later. There's a few things that are on the cutting floor of our show because I just didn't properly. It's an exhausting show. So there's a few things I'm like, we didn't really nail that, but we have to move on, and just no one will ever see it. Also, we did all that for nothing. That does happen.
What will happen after this next season? Will we see more film work from you, or is the show? Will you stay with the show?
Yeah, if they give me a third season, I'll do it. Sure, I love it. But I don't know after that. I have no idea. I don't know how I'll feel after 3 seasons. I don't think there's an American. George Carlin said something about Americans take any idea, good or bad, and just run it to the ground. So I don't want to do it like the show. I don't want to keep it going just to have the job. So we'll see after 3 seasons if it's still good. I'd like to make movies, but this show gives me so much freedom. They don't read the scripts. They don't approve anything.
How did this happen? Because this doesn't happen to anybody else. No one has that deal.
No.
You go in and say, "Fuck you get nothing from me, and I'm going to give you a show when I'm finished with it."
Yeah, that's what I said. You just have to be willing to say that. Most people want the show so badly that they won't say that. And they have a weird delusion that if you do what they say for like 40 years, then you'll get 1 year where you do it your way and you'll die. But it doesn't. And if you set a pattern of doing things in an unhealthy way, it'll stay that way, especially if it succeeds. That's the worst thing that happens to talented people is they get a show through a system they don't, and they end up with a pilot they don't like, and people love it, and then they have to do that show they don't like forever. I just told them I don't want to really do this show unless you don't know what it's even about. You just wire me money and I'll do the show. And that's the only way I'm willing to do it. And they said, well, we want to improve your cast. And I said, let's not do the show. I just kept saying, let's not do the show. I don't want to do it. And I just said, I understand you want to approve the cast. Anybody would. But we shouldn't do the show. Because I was doing stand-up and succeeding at it. I love stand-up. I love being on tour, and then I get to go home with my kids. I have a good life when I'm not doing the TV. The TV shows are a pain in the ass. But so I was willing to. I said no to the show several times based on deal points, and then they finally said, "Oh, well, just fucking make it then, Jesus." I just went off and made it, and they went, "Oh, that's good." And since I proved that being completely left alone, I could do something that they felt they could make a little money on. They said, "Oh, let's keep doing that." But it's not a deal I have. It's just that I literally have to earn it every episode. So if I turn in 2 bad ones in a row, they'll start. They have every right to fire me. They can replace me in every job I have. And my deal says that they have to approve everything I do. They just don't exercise it because they haven't felt they had to.
You say, you were prepared to walk away from this. You're not sure what the next film will be. But I get the sense that stand-up is the one thing you could never walk away from.
No, I have to. I think I'll always do it. I think I'll do it till I'm dead, probably. I mean, that might. How long that'll be. But yes, I'll always do it. It's a great place to start. Great ideas come from it. And I love it. And it always saved my life. I've had a lot of little parts of my career where something started going good and then it shits the bed. And I can always go back to Nashville. And that's where the road is. And you can succeed on a lower class level. You can succeed on a working class level as a stand-up. You can just live and tell jokes. So yeah, I'll always do it.
And there's that, but you obviously get something much more out of it.
Yeah,
and what is
I
it?
do. I love it. It's a really fun craft to fly. I don't know. words for it. I just love it. I love taking a really fucked up, far-fetched idea and getting it to a place where anybody will laugh at it. Like when I see like white-haired ladies from Michigan in the crowd, and I'm talking about fucking a dog or something, and she's going, "Whoa, wonderful!" So satisfying. And there's a lot of, and I still, most, even audiences that come to see me, I see all kinds of people, and I'll say something, I'll start a premise, and they'll go, "You're not gonna fucking talk about that, are you?" And then they'll go, "Oh, God, that is funny." I love that. I love taking people down that road, you know. They're like, "Hey, you wanna go there?" "Oh, there's something nice there." Okay. "Oh, I still don't wanna go down this one." "Okay, there's something." And after a while, they start to trust you. And then you all go to hell together.
Do you remember the first time someone said to you, "You're funny"?
God, you're funny.
Or when you thought that maybe I could, you know, the leap between being the funny guy in the classroom and being the funny guy on stage is huge.
Yeah.
And when you decided to make that leap?
First time I got a laugh, I was in class in the school, and they were talking about the parts of the skull, there's 3 bones in your head. I don't remember what they're called, but they said, they were asking the class to name it, and I said the noggin. And I heard that word. And all my friends fucking laughed. And then in 3rd grade, we had to do vocabulary words. Everybody had to stand up and take vocabulary words and make sentences with them. And so I made one. I remember this very distinctly for some reason. I said, I'm going to take off, the words were clothes and building. I said, I'm going to take off my clothes and jump off a building. And the kids fucking laughed like grown-ups, you know, like, they just laughed so hard. And then it became this thing that every time we did vocabulary, I would always come up with funny ones, and it would make the class laugh. And then the other popular kids thought it was cool, so they started doing it and making inside jokes about each other, you know. Jeff, gave his wallet to Vanessa. And everybody would scream. I was like, what the fuck is funny about that? I stole whatever version of the Kardashians there was in the classroom. I just fucking thought them. They always win. They're pretty good.
You think, I mean, you know, when I think of something like that, I wonder, people who aren't naturally as gifted, can you teach someone to be funny?
Well, no. I mean, I think you can teach somebody how some kinds of comedy work. There's some triggers to make people laugh and stuff. Yeah, you can sort of joylessly apply a craft of comedy. This joke functions very well. Succeeded. And you can make a shitload of money doing that too. You can. But it's not fun. I mean, I've had jobs like that where you're just going, yes, let's do the joke. Pull back the camera joke. You know, there's a bunch of ones like that, like whatever. I have one that I used to do where I'd say, you know, when you think you're gonna fart and you shit on your father's face, and then you get kicked off the plane. So it's like you pull back the beginning of the joke, you just see my ass trying to fart, and then you pull back the camera and there's my dad under, like I don't know why I'm perched over my dad. And then you realize, well, we were on a plane. I'm not defending that as a great joke. I'm trying to teach you the dynamics of pull back the camera joke.
Well, you used to write for Chris Rock, people like that. Tell me,
Yeah.
How difficult is it for you to write in a voice other than your own?
Well, I didn't sit there and go like, anyway, that's Chris.
The style.
Well, Chris is a really smart guy, and before I wrote for him, I wrote for Conan, and Chris called me up and said, I want you to write for me. He said, but do not write black. Don't write for me. Write the Conan weird shit for my audience. He said, because nobody does that for black people. He said, black audiences just get the shittiest humor because everyone thinks they know what they want. So they just fucking do all this, you know, bitches humor. Like, that's all they're gonna want is like, I got my GED and some bitches. Like, that's all. It's like another fucking GED, you know, I went to college. Why do I still have to listen to GED bitches jokes? And that's all people assume. Every black person wants to laugh at that. And Chris said, I'm gonna have a show where we do a kind of weird, you know, strange, faulty humor for black audience. So that's kind of, his show was like that. It got really, really strange sometimes. And I mean, I remember like this thing with Mark, and some of it would be black-centric in theme. Like we had this guy, Mario Joyner, who did a lot of bits for us. And one of them was that he says he went out with a hidden camera and found that there was a lot of discrimination still against black people. And so he says, I went to a restaurant and they refused me as soon as I walked in. And so we see a tape and he's completely naked. And they kick him out. And then we had him trying to hail a cab, trying to get a cab. It's a silly bit. And it was about black people, but it was silly. So Chris, he let us do some really strange things. He's a very smart guy.
And was the process for you working in that way? Because working the way you do now, you take it to Zeta's in Nashville and you let it rip and see whether it works in front of an audience or not. What's the process? Is it a table read and you're sort of passing jokes back and forth between other comics? And writing?
Yeah, for Chris's show, you have a pitch meeting. And then you're up against this, we had like this all-star team of writers. They were great writers. And you had to, you pitch an idea to a bunch of comedy writers, your fellow competitive comedy writers. And they're gonna, if you get them all to laugh, it's a good, Chris, it's always about him. He's a very bright guy. And so he would just pick what he knew would work. And he did stuff that I picked, that I wrote, that wasn't particularly funny, but he just liked it. So he would say, yeah, let's do that. And it wouldn't get a laugh, and he'd go, I don't give a shit, I just like it. We did this thing called Shame on You, like one of those local news segments where they shame on you. So it was a guy who said, he complained that the White Castle was selling tickets to get in. And so we see this tape of him going and saying, do I need a ticket to get in there? And some guy at the door is like, yeah, give me $5. And so he went, they're selling tickets to White Castle. And then Chris said, shame on you for wasting our time. And these big finger things came and beat the shit out of him. It was so stupid. And it played to absolute silence. One laugh. And Chris was just howling.
Let's talk a little bit about Lucky Louie on HBO. Was that sort of a turning point where perhaps you realized that you needed to be closer to your stage persona on TV, or truer to yourself?
Well, Lucky Louie did really show that what I was doing on stage. Then I was talking about marriage and stuff, and I was married, and so I built a show around that stuff, and we did it in this sort of honeymooner style and stripped it down to have no nice sets, and and we shot it on videotape like they shoot the news on, and we just did it very bare bones and simple, and nobody really liked it. So, they let us do 13 of them. I loved it. I loved doing that show. It's really fun.
Why the stylistic choices in that sense? Shoot it on videotape and
well, because I think that sitcoms that are very beautiful and filmed, and they have like a lot of throw pillows and award-winning sets. It's just not funny. There's no connect. Sitcoms should either be, I think, filmed with no audience or filmed with an audience. And actually, most sitcoms, they don't have an audience there, or they have like 8 people and they feed them pizza all night, and then they just stick laughs in. So it feels synthetic. I go to sleep when I watch most sitcoms because there's this really like these little smarmy, me. It's a very hard thing to watch. But when I watch the Odd Couple or All in the Family, shows like that, you just hear these fucking big laughs because there was a real moment, So we tried that.
And you see the actors responding to that real moment.
Yeah, you gotta wait for it. It's a performed show. But folks were very used to these very competently shot shows, so they rejected it. It was just, they just thought we did it wrong. Which I guess we did. Sorry.
How did you feel about that? What was your reaction to that?
Well, I got enough people that really, there was a lot of people that loved the show. I mean, the show did well. The ratings climbed every week. Like, they give us the ratings report and said, you went up again. It just kept going up. And then when we went away, we were told you're gonna come back, and we wrote 8 episodes, and we were getting ready to come back. And then we found out there was people at HBO that just hated the show, that it wasn't classy enough for HBO. And there was some writers, TV writers, who hated it too. So, all of a sudden they said, we're not doing it. I was like, what? I thought we did really well. And they said, yeah, but it's just it's not a brand show. So, and things changed at HBO too. So. It's a boring story, just a show failing. That's all it is. Sometimes shit has to go.
It was a great show. It was a great show.
Thank you. I liked it. I love doing it. It's fun.
I went on Facebook and asked people to send them questions.
Okay. And then you're on Facebook?
Yeah. And one of the questions was, someone wants to know why or how your children react to the show and the interaction that you have with the kids on the show.
Yeah.
And, you know, because so much of this is theoretically based on real life, how do your kids in real life react to
They think the show's really funny because I'm not like that with them. Like my kids and I have a great relationship. They're really empathetic and smart and nice kids, and they're easy to be with, and we have a lot of fun. And I'm a pretty patient dad, and I don't get upset easily. I just don't. It's not worth it. So when they see me just fucking give the finger in the back of this shitty kid's head, they just think it's hilarious. They're in their minds, they're like, what kid would say that to their father? That's crazy. He gave her the finger. That's sort of the way to look at it. If I was like a mean, shitty, disinterested dad in real life, I think they'd be like, oh God, they're really just showing everybody how awful it is. But we have a good thing going, the three of us, so.
Yeah. And they seem very, I mean, they were here earlier.
Yeah, they were here for the award thing.
Yeah, yeah. How do they feel about all that? How do they feel about that kind of end of it? Do they
Well, it's
understand
weird
what
for
it is?
kids. It's weird being with your dad, and people walking up and shaking their big hands with them and saying, hey, your dad's funny, and like trying to make them laugh, and they're just looking at them like a giant faced person. So they sit there and their backs are arching. It was fucking painful for them. It was just this, and Gary Shandling is just going, and I'm sitting there, Gary Shandling, and they're like, who's this? Why does he keep quiet? It's just, not a long time for them, but they're nice people, so they grinned and they bared it. And they were happy to see me get an award. That made them happy. And I took them to the Letterman show. I did Letterman a few nights ago, and I brought my kids with me. And they stood right behind where I was standing. They were like 4 feet away. And that was an amazing experience because they really like they felt what it was like to do what I do. It's the first time they really connected with it. And my oldest daughter said, I felt like you were falling and falling, and then every joke was like a plane that would take you back up to the top, and then you fall and fall. And she said all these things, and I was like, I've never thought of it that way, and that's exactly how it feels. And that'll be a memory she has. So it'll be like somebody saying, yeah, my dad's Red Buttons, and I went to the Ed Sullivan show with him. Really? Wow. So she has that now, and yeah, that meant a lot. It made it mean a lot less to me doing the Letterman show. I hadn't done it in 15 years. I was kind of nervous. But then, because they were there and I had that experience with them, fuck those people. I don't give a shit what they think. I was there with my kid. We had a good time. But kids do that. They take pressure off your own shitty life. As you project forward into, I'm going to be dead and she's going to have this memory. It's awesome.
Well, Lisa McDonald on Facebook says, love the line bit on Letterman last night. And Candace Gregoria says, and there's more. Also, do you have I think we've covered this. Do you have a particular system for cycling through the stand-up material? When do you decide to drop a joke, and how long does it take to create each 60 minutes of material? And also, will you marry me? So two marriages.
No. When I've done the show on a special, I usually drop it. I used to, if I did on the Tonight Show, I would keep it, but now that with stuff like the viral going out, more people see those things. So now, kind of, if it's on TV, I won't do it anymore.
So the internet's actually made your job a little rougher.
Well, but it's funny because a lot of comedians are like, I don't want to overexpose. I'm like, well, what are you doing this for? I don't want everybody to see it. It's the secret. Let people see you so they appreciate it. But then I can't tell the joke. Write a fucking other one. Where do you think the first one came from? Of course you could do it. I mean, I always tell comedians that. They're like, how do you write an hour? If you had to do it, you could do it. Somebody said all your jokes are illegal now. Would you fucking go sell cars? Really? Like, well, I'm done. That's all. I got those jokes from an elf. I haven't seen an elf in years. It does feel that way sometimes if you don't know where it came from and you don't know if it's reliable. But if you just tell yourself you have to, you know? I mean, when I wrote for Conan, we had to do an hour of comedy every fucking night, 5 nights a week. And it was brutal. And then on Chris Rock's show, we had to do a half hour a week, and it felt as hard. So whatever your thing is that you have to do, you're gonna go, oh fuck, I gotta do that. So you just decide where that line is. You know, I think if you have to assume if you're a comic that whatever material you're doing right now stinks. It's bad. Or else, or are you the best? Unless you really believe you're the greatest comic that ever lived, then the way to improve is to reject everything you're doing and say this is okay, but it's not nearly as good as where I'm headed. But you have to create a void by destroying everything. You have to kill it. Or else there's no, you can just stand up there and tell the same fucking jokes every night for years and years. And I did that. I did that for about 15 years. And then I started, and I was just going in circles, spiraling downward. I was going in circles that were like a degenerating orbit, you know, where you're getting closer and closer to burning in the atmosphere. And I thought, and I wasn't happy. And I thought either I'm gonna quit comedy or I'm gonna start doing this thing that's not likely to work, which is throw everything out and start again over and over again. And it worked, so far.
We'll see a new show in Montreal next year. That's our time.
Yeah.
I guess 1 year from now, we'll see a whole new thing, right?
I guess so, yeah. I usually skip years here because I don't want to. I think I probably should have skipped this year. But,
what the hell?
It was okay. I did my time. It was all right. I closed strong. All right.